Sim Tshabalala is the group CEO. He joins us now. Sim, thanks very much for your time. So we had a wave of interest rate increases over the last year. And while it might not be the only reason for your good performance, it certainly is a big part of it as you saw higher loan repayments from clients. Is that a big part of your good performance?
Devin, yes, indeed. Thank you ever so much for this great opportunity. It's always lovely to chat to you. You're 100% correct. We saw interest rate increases in South Africa and in a number of African countries where we are operating. Firstly. Secondly, we stood by our clients during COVID and lent out quite a large proportion of our balance sheet. And so we came out of COVID with lots of clients having borrowed from us for the purposes of home loans, vehicles, and indeed unsecured lending. And the same applies to our corporate clients. And so as interest rates increased and as our asset base got larger, we generated net interest income in 2022 of a 25% increase.
Yeah, and look, it's still a tight environment at the moment, Sim. So, I mean, are consumers and businesses paying back their loans? What do your results say?
They are indeed. Their balance sheets remain robust. So in our consumer business, we saw a decline actually in the credit loss ratio. In other words, how much bad debts hit our income statements. That was a decline in 2022. Likewise, in the business and commercial sector, where we had an increase, interestingly enough, was in the corporate space, and it was driven in large measure by two events. One was a consumer sector client, and the second one was challenges that we faced in Ghana, pursuant to the sovereign debt restructure that happened there.
Now, Sim, you know, we've got a task and a half, and as a bank, as a country that is, as a bank, you want businesses to take on more credit, expand, it's good for you, but they need reliable power, they need effective transport networks. What do you think about the future when you look at those very debatable and very important factors in our country at the moment? Are we getting somewhere?
Devin, like you and like the vast majority of South Africans, I get thoroughly depressed when I contemplate the degradation of infrastructure, whether it be power, transport, sewage, water and sewage reticulation in a number of municipalities. All of that is depressing. But I do have hope when I look at the plans and the execution against those plans relating firstly to electricity and the amount of power and excess power that will be generated in the future in the country once these actions have been executed. Depressing in the short term, but hopeful in the medium term. Indeed, in that space, a large number of our clients are borrowing from us for the purposes of building their distributed power. That applies to a large proportion of our clients, whether it be municipalities, the mining industry, and indeed people in the retail sector. For consumers, people are increasingly buying batteries. They're buying solar, and they're buying their solar panels. And that, of course, creates opportunities. On the one hand, it's a challenge, but it's also creating opportunities.
Look, let's just step in now and I'll talk about that because we've had other financial institutions saying that, look, we are seeing a significant interest increase in people coming over and asking for loans with regards to solar power projects. I mean, this, of course, on the back of that rebate that was announced in the budget. Sim, I mean, is this a noticeable thing? Are you getting more and more people coming in and taking out loans to improve or sort of get into these solar power projects, both clients and the businesses?
Absolutely, Devin. Certainly since December, we saw a big increase of people purchasing batteries, big increase of people making inquiries and having conversations with us around solar, a big increase of our activity as well as our competitors talking to our clients to say to them, you know, we've got products and solutions for you that help improve the quality of your life, but also help you save money by way of greening your home. And so these opportunities for retail clients and for corporate clients are burgeoning. It's an exciting part of our business. And in fact, if I could mention this, the fastest growing part of our corporate and investment bank is that which faces off to sustainable finance. It's an exciting part of the business.
You flagged this grey listing related to South Africa's ability to monitor illicit money flows. I mean, you've done that before we were on the list. We're on the list now. Sim, does it worry you? And how have international banks that you deal with, because of course Standard Bank deals with international banks and there's a whole lot of relationships there, how have they responded to this? Is it probably, it is probably a bit of a headache for them now, isn't it?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it would have been better if we had not been grey listed. The cost of capital would have been less. It would be less friction to do transactions, make payments, do your trade, and so forth. But we are where we are. We're now grey listed. The correspondent banks that do business with Standard Bank are quite comfortable with our risk management. They're quite comfortable with the way we monitor anti-money laundering, terrorist finance, and proliferation finance. They've looked at our processes, they looked at the way in which we monitor, the way we do reporting, and the way we work with authorities to defend the payment system. So there's no issue there. The real issue in the 8 action items that were listed by FATF relates actually not so much to identification, a little bit more to investigation, but it's actually the prosecution that is a challenge. Now, I'm in the school that believes that, like Zimbabwe and Botswana, we definitely can do this in 3 years. I also believe that we can get off that list in 18 months if we were to approach this like Mauritius did, with urgency, with coordinated effort between the authorities, the law enforcement authorities, and the financial sector. It's doable, but it's going to be hard.
All right, final question as I'll let you go very briefly, Sim. And it's back to the power crisis. I'm not quite sure how much a bank spends on diesel and what the impact of this power cuts have been. We've spoken about the fact that they looks like there's a road somewhere, but it's going to take an awfully long time. We're already in still deep stages of power cuts. Just your view on what's going forward now that we've got an electricity minister at the fore. What's the prospects in that particular view?
Devin, we spend 75 million rand on diesel. We've already spent quite a lot of money on purchasing generators. And of course, we've got green buildings, such as the one we're in as we speak. Like in business, the analogy to draw, for example, I guess, I mean, I'm not a politician, but I think you would say you want a strategy and a plan, SONA. Then you want a financial plan against that strategy, budget. In that budget, a great deal said, as you have pointed out, about financing and the impact of Eskom on the country's fiscal position, and the plans that are afoot in respect of Eskom, and the demands that have been made by the National Treasury for, in exchange for the funding to be provided. Excellent. Then you've got people that you need to put in place to execute such a plan. You've got the various ministries, and in particular the Ministry of Electricity. Well, it looks rational, it looks internally consistent. The test, of course, is going to be the speed with which the load shedding is addressed, the speed with which the transmission of power is addressed, and the speed with which Eskom is restructured.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Sim Tshabalala, the Standard Bank CEO. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Yeah, well,